What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we are checking out the Marshall Artist 3203 solid state tube hybrid amp. Let's do it. Alright guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle, and what I do is I take awesome high gain amplifiers, guitars, cabs, speakers, pickups, overdrives, I record them with a simple SM57 setup, and I give you guys the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into East End or thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and 34-year-old dudes already hitting their midlife crisis, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on your way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks! Alright guys, so today, we are taking a look at the Marshall Artist 3203. This amp, as you can probably hear from that intro clip, is a hidden high gain gem, and I have always kind of just completely bypassed these amps when I would see them on Craigslist or Marketplace or anything like that. I've seen these things kicking around for years. They go for super cheap, and I've just really never given them a second thought because I always just kind of saw that they were a hybrid amp and just went ahead and kept on scrolling. Well, that was a mistake on my end. As you guys can hear in that intro clip, I think this amp sounds really surprisingly awesome. Like really, really awesome. And it's super simple. You literally only have one EQ, a volume, and a gain knob on the gain channel of this amplifier. Everything else that's over here, you've got the master, volume, and reverb, but all of these controls here are just for the clean channel, which we're not even gonna touch. So dialing in that gain channel is as simple as just messing with 3 knobs, and that is it. And I am really pleasantly surprised on how good that this amp sounds. I've got to thank Adam, my guitarist in Human Animal. He also works at World of Music, the local music shop here. And when I came up and I said, hey, do you guys have anything cool in stock? He pointed me to this amp and he said, you got to check this thing out. So the amp sounds awesome and I'm super happy to be sharing it with you guys. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the tones on this thing. For the intro clip, I was playing my Balaguer Typhon with the Seymour Duncan SH6 distortion in the bridge. The amp is going into a Mesa traditional 4x12 with an SM57 on the stock vintage 30. And up top here, we had the MXR M77 Overdrive on and nothing else. That is all we were doing, was boosting the front end of it. It's taking a drive really, really well. The only part of this preamp, well, it's not even the preamp. There's a 12AX7 phase inverter tube. Everything else in the preamp is solid state, and then this is 30 watts of tube power. So really all I'm gonna do here is I'm going to dial this tone control back up to noon, and we are gonna bring this gain all the way back down to about 9 o'clock. All right, so overall it sounds a little weak and a little thin with the gain that low. I'm just gonna go ahead and pump that gain up to about 11 o'clock. We're just gonna keep pushing that gain control up on the amp. All right, so it is starting to come alive a little bit more. Let's keep pushing that gain up. Oh man, we just hit a point there where the amp just really filled out and sounds much more like a real amp now. right, so it sounds a little flat. I want to actually come over here and explore this tone a little bit and see basically what the range of the control does. Another thing that I forgot to note, I do have a foot switch plugged in here because you cannot actually access this channel without a 1-button foot switch to switch over. So I just have a generic 1-button foot switch in the front of the amp and it's working just fine. I'm gonna go ahead and roll this tone all the way down and we're gonna go through the range of the tone. All right, so that tone control has a lot of range to it. It really takes it from this kind of round and woody sound all the way to a very bright and stringy sound. And I think really kind of just past noon is where it sounded really good to me. Yeah, that is a nice classic Marshall sound. Sounds awesome. So again, we're gonna, well, let's see how this does with something a little bit lower gain. I need to tune really bad. All right, so even on a pickup like the Duncan Distortion, just rolling the volume back into the front end of the amp a little bit once you have the gain high enough to kind of thicken the tone up, sounds pretty good for the classic rock thing. It doesn't sound, you know, like a cranked plexi, but it doesn't sound bad either. So let's get that volume back up because we are here for the belligerent amateur thrash riffs. Let's go ahead and push that gain forward a little bit. Now we got some noise coming through the speakers, which means we're gonna have a lot of saturation. Okay, so that sounds like Metallica's demo tape if you played it through a broken stereo. Let's go ahead and let's get that tone up to get some brightness going on. So rolling that gain up that far really seems to have affected the top end and the upper mids of the amp that we're going to have to push that tone up even further in order to kind of bring some of that bite back to it. But man, I gotta tell you, this amp, being that it is a, you know, solid state preamp, is extremely tight, like incredibly tight. I don't feel like I need a boost in order to tighten it up. I just want a boost in order to add more gain to it. So I like it. All right, but it still is definitely lacking some bite. Let's push that tone up even further. Now we're talking, it's sounding even better. All right, so it does still have that classic kind of Marshall rubber bandy, thuddy low end. It's not necessarily super percussive. There's a lot of low mids in the low end of those Marshalls in a certain frequency that just kind of makes them sound kind of, you know, woody on the palm mutes. But a good remedy for that is an overdrive that takes those out. So what goes better with a classic Marshall boosting for thrash tones I am really struggling to get these sentences out of my mouth today. Then a Boss SD1. So let's go ahead, let's kick that Boss SD1 on. All right, that sounds rad. Let's actually push that tone up even more, try to get some sort of a scoopy type tone out of this thing. That sounds awesome. We have plenty of gain, but one thing about Marshalls, when you push the preamp gain, it kind of thickens the low end up a little bit as well. And this thing seems like it needs a little bit of help in the low end department. So let's go ahead and push that gain up even further. This amp just sounds like 80s thrash to me all day long, and I absolutely love that. That's a lot of fun, but let's try an overdrive that keeps a little bit more low end in the tone. Let's try this all pedal Jeff Loomis Devil's Triad. We are just kicking in the overdrive side of things, and let's hear how that sounds. That is a lot of clarity for the amount of gain that we have going on right now. This thing sounds awesome. One thing that I also think is really important to note is that this amp has an effects loop. Being that you only have one tone control on the front for the gain channel, if you really wanted to fine tune how this thing sounded, throw a 10-band EQ into the built-in effects loop on this amp. Why I make that sound like it's actually like an important feature or a novel feature is older Marshalls didn't typically have effects loops on them. They didn't really start coming with them until, I believe, the 2205, 2210 era. So the fact that this was made in the 80s, I'm pretty sure anyways, and has a built-in effects loop really is going to be to your advantage if you use EQ pedals in the loop, because now you're gonna be able to shape how this thing sounds even better. So it already sounds good out of the box. We're gonna try a different boost. Let's go ahead and try this Friedman Buxom boost, because this is a great boost for keeping some low end in the tone and really hitting the front end of the amp. That is a smooth, super percussive, awesome sounding 80s thrash tone. All right, one last boost. The Buxom boost sounds incredible. Let's kick in the M77, which is what I had on at the beginning of the video. That really clears up those cloudy low mids that I've been talking about pretty much the entire video. Not nearly as much output as the Buxom boost, but we can bring the gain back up on the amp. And that really pushes the mids forward too. That sounds really good to my ears. All right, right, so this thing sounds great with the Duncan distortion. Let's check it out with an active pickup and see how the amp responds to an active pickup. All right, guys, I have my Jackson Randy Rhoads Flying V here. Let's see how this thing sounds. I have touched nothing other than change the guitar. Wow, okay, so we have this boost overall is adding a lot of mids. Let's add some 100 hertz low end and a little bit more tone to brighten it up just a tad. And then over here, we're gonna actually bring the gain back just a little bit. It sounds good, but the top end is really choked off at this point. We would need a boost with a lot of top end to really kind of make it come to life a little bit better. That is not the one. So let's try the Buxom boost again, and let's try to get some treble on here. All right, so that sounds cool, but let's try one riff in drop C, see how this thing handles lower tunings. Can this thing be used as a hardcore amp? We're about to find out. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for me today on the Marshall Artist 3203. This thing is an absolute diamond in the rough. It is a hidden gem. It is whatever good attributes you want to give to an amp that nobody knows anything about. This thing is awesome. My only complaint is with the stock EQ, there's not a lot of range over stuff like the bass or the top end, so you have to get a little bit creative going into the front of the amp in order to get the tones that you want. But if you have an EQ for the loop, then that's pretty much gonna solve all of those issues right there. So I think this thing is awesome. If you come across one for $400 to $500, all day, man. This thing sounds rad. Really enjoying it, but what did you guys think? Do you guys know about this amp? Have you played it before, or do you own one? What have your experiences been? Let me know down in the comments, and I will be sure to meet you guys down there to talk about it, as I'm really curious to see who else has played this amp and what their experience has been. If you want to support the channel, down in the description of this video are all my support links, including my Sweetwater affiliate link. Get yourself something nice from the fine folks at Sweetwater. I get a little kickback, costs you nothing extra, and we both win. Thanks! And finally, if you liked the video, guys, do me a huge favor, hit that like button because it really does make a difference. Subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. It was great to have you along for the ride today. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time. You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.